All right, so we will continue from right to freedom of religion. Again, we have articles 25 to 28. Plus, if you look at these articles, these were there from starting of Constitution itself, right? These are not like added later on by way of amendment or anything. These were there only. But provisions relating to this word secularism was not added in preamble. That's how it is added, that we already have freedom of religion. If someone is willing to follow, practice, profess, propagate any religion, that freedom is already been given. We have so many articles as well. So why not indicate that also in the preamble? With that thought, this word secularism was added in the preamble, but again, from initial time only we had articles 25 to 28. Now, like we always say that preamble gives us like a direction to understand the Constitution. When we see that, okay, in fundamental rights, Constitution is also talking about freedom of religion. It is also giving us a right to practice, profess, propagate any religion. So we should not think in that other direction, that is it that Constitution or framers of Constitution wanted us to be like super religious persons doing all the religious things. No. Why? What is the purpose of adding these provisions? It is to ensure secularism. That if someone is willing to practice, profess, propagate any religion, that person is completely free to do it. It's not obligatory as such that we need to follow religious practices or practices for sure. It's not as such obligatory. Just like how we have freedom to practice, profess, propagate any religion, same ways we are also free not to believe in any religious thoughts, not to follow any religion. We are completely free for that also. But we need to ensure that we are not disturbing someone else. Okay, there is no problem if we do not want to follow any religion, any religious beliefs. That is completely fine. That freedom also is given, but we should not disturb another person in that person's enjoyment, because he is given freedom of religion under these articles. So we should not be disturbing another person in that. Okay, so we have first article, that is article 25, talking about freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion. Again, this freedom has been given to us, but then it is not absolute, just like other fundamental rights. It may be subject to some reasonable restrictions. And these restrictions may be imposed on grounds like public order, morality, health, and other provisions of this part, all persons, right? So considering these grounds, we are otherwise having freedom of conscience and the right to freely profess, practice, and propagate any religion. During COVID, we have seen that otherwise we are free to practice, profess, propagate any religion, but then there were so many restrictions on the ground of public health, right? That whatever religious gatherings were there, some restrictions were being imposed. Like if it is Ganpati, Durga Puja, which are celebrated in a grand way, a lot of people would gather, they would pray, all the things, right? But now there would be restrictions. Some SOPs would be released by government and they would say all these things you need to follow. Whoever is there in the committee of those religious gatherings, those people need to have like a COVID negative report. They need to take permission from the DC. They need to inform the police station that we are organizing this. So many rules and regulations were there. Gathering of not more than these many people would be allowed. So that means otherwise we are free to practice, profess, propagate any religion. We are even free for religious gatherings. But then there may be some reasons based on which restrictions can be imposed. Same thing we have seen. So that it would say that, okay, fine, there will be just one place, people would come, pray, and then they would leave. No sitting, and then, like gathering, huge gatherings would not be allowed. Those things would fall under this provision, that fundamental right is not absolute. Considering the situation in a certain state, state government can take actions on what rules, regulations to be followed by the people. Okay, now when we talk about this freedom to practice, profess, propagate any religion, there may also be some restrictions imposed considering other legislations. Like in general, we have a duty to keep our environment clean, right? We have so many legislations as well talking about environmental protection. So in the name of maybe religious functions or religious gatherings, just because we have this right, we will not again be allowed to pollute a certain place or pollute a certain river, etc. There may again be some rules and regulations passed with regard to that. So considering those reasonable restrictions, otherwise we are free to have religious freedom under Article 25 of Constitution. Okay, when we look at Article 26, now it is not enough that simply we are given this right, that you have a right to practice, profess, propagate any religion. Simply giving that right is not enough. In order for us to be able to enjoy that right, we need some additional rights also. Okay, just saying you have religious freedom is not enough. We need some additional rights as well. So what are these additional rights? Again, those reasonable restrictions will definitely be there, subject to public order, morality, health. Any religious denomination or any section thereof shall have the right. Right? Whatever religion you are following, whatever religion you are practicing, does not matter. You will have a right to establish and maintain institutions for religious and charitable purposes. Any example of such institution, religious or charitable purpose, which is established? Religious institution, any example which allows the followers of that certain religion to enjoy it in a better way?
As far as I know, like there is Tumkur, Sikh Gangawan, they have a number of institutions.
Institutions, yes, correct. So first of all, we talk about institutions. There may be temples, there may be masjids and stuff. Those are there. Plus, for charitable purpose, they can establish, like you said, institutions will be there. There may be some libraries which will be open. There may be some community halls or some other places where people can gather for different purposes. So it's not just enough that we are said that you have religious freedom. In order to carry forward those religious activities, we may need to establish, or we may need the right to establish such institutions as well. Because it's mostly those temples, masjids and stuff only where the religious gatherings would most of the times happen. So in such a way, institutions are very much needed for us to enjoy this right. To manage its own affairs in matters of religion. Again, there would not be like unnecessary restrictions or control from the government or other bodies, right? Most of the times they are free to manage their own affairs. You will even see there would be temples where they will have like a community hall which they will rent out for some small functions or pujas and stuff like that. They would even charge money for that, and that money can again be utilized for the day-to-day operations of the temple, right? In those matters, they are completely free to take a decision. The committee of the temple would take a decision, they will take care of all the things. During different religious functions, you would see they would go for collection, money collection, right? Whatever people are giving, movable things, maybe some donations and stuff they are giving, they are having a right to take it. Whatever festivals, whatever gatherings they want to organize, they are pretty much free to organize it, right? Yes, there can be some rules or regulations they need to follow. Like nowadays, you would see for any such gatherings, they would need to maybe take permission, or they need to inform the police that we are doing this certain gathering. So considering those restrictions which may be there for any of these reasons, otherwise we are free to also manage the religious affairs or religious matters, because that freedom is again very much needed. Own and acquire movable and immovable property. Any such example you have seen? Movable or immovable property?
Many mutts are having large lands.
Plots, lands they are having, correct. Because they are again called as juristic person, they can even hold, acquire, dispose of property as well. So many times we see mutts, temples, they would have their own property. They will also have some movable items as well. Right? Many donations and other things would be given, all those they can own and acquire, which is again very much needed for them to run like a institution, religious institution. Plus, we also see they can have bank account in the name of that trust, mutt, or whatever it is. In their name only, they can have the bank account and other things. So those things are also needed to ensure we are able to enjoy these rights that are guaranteed to us. To administer such property in accordance with law. Whatever law applies, like same ways how Transfer of Property Act will apply to a normal living human being, it's same way it would apply to a juristic person as well. So they are given this right that they can administer such property in accordance with the provisions of Transfer of Property Act that would apply. Okay, so freedom to manage religious affairs, just Article 25 is not enough. We also need freedom to manage such religious affairs so that we can enjoy that right to the fullest. That provision is also given. Okay, then Article 27 is related to taxes, because like we say that we are free to follow any religion, same ways we are also free to take a decision that we don't want to follow any religion. Okay, so and also India is a secular country, they don't have like any state religion, right? People are free to decide which religion they want to follow, if at all they want to follow. So 27 is freedom as to payment of taxes for promotion of any particular religion. So a person, because we are given the freedom to choose a religion for ourselves, or if we don't want, we can do that as well, right? Because we are given the freedom to choose our own religion, what happens is no person shall be compelled to pay any taxes. So a person will not be compelled that you need to mandatorily pay so and so tax, and whatever we are collecting by way of this tax, we will be using that money for the advancement, for the promotion or maintenance of this particular religion. Okay, that should not be imposed, because that in a way is like taking away this right of a person, right? If a person is willing, that person can make donations for whatever institution the person is willing, but as such mandatory tax will not be imposed on a person, wherein it's very clear that money will be utilized for promotion or maintenance of a certain religion or religious denomination. Okay, then we have Article 28, which is freedom as to attendance at religious instruction or religious worship in certain educational institution. Now, in educational institutions, there may be some religious instructions given. So freedom as to attendance. Are you free to take a decision whether you want to attend it or not, or is it mandatory on you? That provision is given in Article 28. So no religious instruction shall be provided in any educational institution which is wholly maintained out of state fund. Like you would see government schools, right? If there is a government school which is wholly maintained out of state fund, they cannot give any religious instructions that, okay, fine, we are teaching how to chant the slokas of maybe Gita, or how to read the Quran or Bible for that matter, right? That should not be done because it is maintained out of state fund. But then, like the next one only we would see, like we are basically free, right, to practice, profess, propagate any religion. For that, we can even establish institutions. Like you said, Siddh Ganga institutions are there. Like that, many institutions, schools can be established, right? So there may be some institutions, educational institutions, which are administered by state, but then they are established under some endowment board or some trust. Okay, some trust or endowment board has established it, which requires religious instruction shall be imparted. If they want to provide religious instruction, they can provide religious instructions in that. Like one I have seen is in Art of Living ashram in Bangalore itself, where they have one school. Their kids will, it's like they will stay there itself, and there some religious instructions are also been given to the kids along with the regular classes, regular studies that they do. Like that, there may be many trusts, many endowment boards which should establish such institutions, and there some trainings may be given. Another one is there, which is, there is this Vivekananda Kendra, right, in Kanyakumari. You are aware of it, right?
Yes, ma'am. Ramakrishna Mission.
Ramakrishna Mission, yes, correct. Ramakrishna Mission also. So they are having like different trusts in different areas. So under those trusts, many schools are established, especially in Northeast area. Many schools are there of this Kanyakumari, Vivekananda.
Even I studied there only.
Oh, you studied there. Which school?
In Coimbatore, ma'am. Ramakrishna Mission.
Or Ramakrishna Mission. Okay. Both are different, or is it same only? Vivekananda Kendra, Ramakrishna Mission?
Yeah, ma'am, it's same only, ma'am.
Same only. Oh, okay. Like in Northeast area, I have seen schools are named like Vivekananda Kendriya, some Vidyalaya, they would say. So I thought it is different. Okay. So do they provide some like teach how to recite these slokas of Gita and stuff?
Yes, ma'am. Morning prayer we have, ma'am.
Morning prayers you have, yes.
Morning and evening, both we have.
Yes, yes. I knew the prayer also. What is the word? I forgot. I think same prayer only. There in our area also there is like one such trust where people can go for some yoga and other things they would teach. So we used to go there when we were kids. So we also like know those things, like chanting of slokas and all they would teach. So we used to learn those things. These are again nothing but some trust. Under that, some like schools are been established, and then they can give some instructions like that. Okay, even some vocational trainings are also provided in such school along with these things. So that is again permitted because they are having like sort of a mission to maybe promote a certain religion or promote a certain thing. So in such a way, it is allowed. Okay, next one is no person attending any educational institution recognized by the state and receiving aid out of state fund shall be required to take part in any religious instruction that may be imparted in such an institution. So there may be an institution, okay, no person attending any educational institution which is recognized by the state and receiving aid out of state fund. Okay, if there are some religious instructions which are imparted, a person is not bound to take part in such instructions, but person is having the freedom to choose whether that person wants to take part in such instructions or not. Okay, and if the person is a minor, then parents or guardians can take a decision for that. All right, recently I saw there is one school. So there is this puja, right? Saraswati puja for books and for studies that people would do.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Right?
ma'am.
Yes, so I think it's like at two different times it has been celebrated. In our area, it's like January end or February starting it is done, but I think in South it is like a different timing.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, in North, it's Vasant Panchami.
Vasant Panchami. Okay.
Like tomorrow, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Yeah, today is like Ganesh Puja there, and then tomorrow Saraswati Puja. Correct. So during that, what happens is now there are a lot of Muslim students are there, and from other religion also a lot of students are there. But then Saraswati Puja is like something which is celebrated in like all the schools, they would organize it. Right. So I heard there is one school which is like saying, giving this option that, okay, fine, if there are like, it's like half of the students are Muslim, half of the students are like Hindus. So they are giving the option, like if Muslim students don't want to pray, they just want to come there, enjoy it, have the prasadam or something, they can do that also. So it's not like mandatory that you need to come there, you need to take part or something. It depends on the person. If the kid is willing, that kid can take part also. There are many students, in fact, who would be willingly going there, praying and all the things. So as such, it's not like mandatory that you need to do it only. It is obligate, like it's optional. Student can take a decision or parents can take a decision that, okay, fine, I don't have any problem if the kid is going there praying, then no issues. If they don't want, they don't want, no problem. Okay, so freedom as to attendance such religious instructions, it would not be obligatory as such in government schools and stuff. But yes, if there is some trust and other bodies, there they would say that this is like mandatory. If you are studying here, you need to do these things. Like in that Art of Living ashram where we went, it was like mandatory that yes, whoever is coming here, students need to stay, they need to take part in all the activities that will be there like throughout the day, right? So there they don't have the option because it is established by a trust, and that trust or endowment board or department might be having some mission with that they have established the institution. Okay, so these are the rights related to religion which we have. Is this part clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So apart from religion, we have one more right, which is cultural and educational rights. Again, we have two articles here. Okay, so this previous one was like for promoting this religious freedom, but this one is more like promoting culture and education and stuff like that. Okay, so we have two rights here. Article 29, it talks about protection of interest of minorities. Now, when we talk about minority, they may be a minority, maybe religious minority, linguistic minority, or whatever. All right, so it does not matter. Any section of the citizens, as in this right is applicable to citizens only. Any section of the citizens who are residing in the territory of India, basically any group of people who are living in a certain area in India and who are having a distinct language, script and culture of their own. Okay, if they have a distinct language, script or culture, they can have this right to preserve it. Okay, so we want to preserve that language, script or culture. For that, they would be given a right. You will see mostly this cultural department, which will be there for all the states. They do a lot of things in order to provide assistance. Okay, they will even maybe sponsor some seminars, webinars, some festivals, etc., which are organized by such communities. Okay, there may be a tribal community who wants to organize a seminar in order to talk about their culture. Maybe there they can ask for sponsorship from the department, and cultural departments do sponsor a lot of such things also. Same ways we see many such tribal communities organizing some, like some gatherings and stuff also for their language, culture, and everything. Okay, 1 second, I'm getting one call. Yeah, like that, if someone is having, they can preserve it as well. Many times we see that there may be some departments from where even it might be funded that for this certain book you translate it in this certain language. Okay, because if it's like a very good book, very renowned book, that may also happen. People may also gather for some like people from a certain community may also gather, and they can write something in their own language and they can recite it, and everyone would, like it is nothing but a way how they can promote their language, right? Same ways they may open like a library where they will say that, okay, fine, we are it's like a free open public library, anyone can come here and they can read books which are available in the maybe local language. There can be steps taken, you will see for certain states the regional language is like mandatory if you want to apply for maybe government job. Same ways for judiciary also, if you want to apply, the local language is needed. You need to crack that paper, after that only you will be qualified, right? So all these are nothing but steps taken in order to protect or preserve the language. Many times I have even seen there are certain places where it would be like, if shops and other things are writing their posters in English or maybe in Hindi, not in the regional language, they would just go there and paint it all black. That you need to use the local language as well. Those are nothing but some steps being taken, whether good or bad, in order to preserve the language, script, and culture. For that, many times government may even support by way of maybe aid or other certain steps as well. Okay. No citizen shall be denied admission into any educational institution which is maintained by the state or receiving aid out of state fund on grounds only of religion, race, caste, language, or any of them. So as such, in the open public schools, there should not be any restrictions in terms of admission on how people are getting admission. Okay, based on all these grounds, there will not be any sort of restriction. So that in a way indicates that people from these minority communities will not be restricted, that you cannot take admission in this certain school because you belong to so and so minority community. Okay, so this is nothing but in order to protect their interest, that you try to preserve your language, culture, whatever, plus you will also be free to get education. Many times you will see that there may be some community halls or organizations who will try to teach the local language, that how to write, how to read. They would organize some maybe workshops, some competitions and stuff. Maybe they would even teach that. So all these are nothing but steps taken because we have this right to preserve, protect our language, script, culture, etc. Okay, that was Article 29. Then we have Article 30, which is right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. First of all, if you are a minority, you can protect your language, script, and culture. Plus, just because you are a minority, you will not be restricted admission in any educational institution, like government-run educational institutions. You will not be restricted admission. That is fine. But if there is a minority community who wants to establish their own educational institution, that right is also being provided. Okay, so right of minorities to establish and administer educational institution. Any such institution which you have seen established, maybe run by a minority community?
Muslim institutions, Christian institutions.
Yes.
Alumna College, Bangalore.
Okay, correct. There are a lot many such institutions. right? In fact, there is this high madrasa, entire board itself is there, right? Which is given the same recognition, just like how CBSE or state boards are having, that is given same sort of power. Same ways, yes, there are a lot many institutions which are being established by all the different minority groups. So all the minorities, whether based on religion or language, will have a right to establish and administer educational institution of their choice. So they can establish, plus they can administer as well. So high madrasa is a very good example that they can even conduct exams, syllabus, everything they only will do, right? They are not like under any such control of any other board or body. So they are having a right to establish plus administer educational institutions of their choice, however they want. Now, a lot of times it may happen that government needs to acquire property for different reasons. Like we may take the example of National Highway Authority of India. So if a certain body of government wants to acquire property, mostly under the legislation, they will have provision, right? That this is the way how we will calculate compensation, and whoever's private plot of land is acquired, we are going to pay compensation. So take, for example, there is such a legislation which is acquiring property from people. And somehow, because this right was given, they are anyways a minority community. So somehow they managed to maybe open an institution. They were running the institution also. But now, under a certain law, their property is acquired. Okay, in whatever property this institution was established, that property is acquired by government. Now, they should not be left in such a position that they are not able to afford another property or continue with the institution. Okay, because this is like a guaranteed right given. Somehow, if they have established an institution once, if because of any reason their property is acquired, they should not be left in such a position that they don't have any other option but to discontinue with the institution. Okay, in making any law providing for compulsory acquisition of property of an educational institution established or administered by a minority, the state shall ensure that the amount fixed by or determined by law for acquisition of such property would not restrict or abrogate the right which is guaranteed. So it should not be so less that they cannot afford another property, or they cannot again start somewhere else with the institution. That should not happen. This thing should be taken into consideration. Okay, so first of all, they have a right to establish and administer an educational institution. Secondly, if because of any reason their property is acquired, it should be kept in mind that they are in a position still to continue with the institution again. And next one is that while granting aid, mostly it will happen that maybe this certain, maybe 90 lakhs rupees is given for welfare of the schools in so-and-so village. Okay, now when 90 lakhs rupees is given, it has to be distributed amongst all the schools that are there in the village. In distributing that aid or in distributing that fund, there should not be discrimination. Okay, whoever is doing that government authority, they should not discriminate that this certain institution is run by a minority. We are not giving anything to them. For all the other institutions, we are distributing. There should not be any such discrimination, only on the ground that, okay, this is an institution established or managed by a minority. So that should not happen, because that would again be like taking away their right, right? If some aid is coming, they should also be getting the benefit for that. Okay. Is this part clear?
Yes, ma'am.